Summary of Chapter 16. Chapter 16 marks a major turning point in Lucas's life, a chapter rich with emotional tension, personal reflection, and transformative decision-making. 2 weeks have passed since Jim offered Lucas a job opportunity at his garage in Uxbridge, including financial support to become a certified Class A mechanic. Lucas has spent the time deeply contemplating this life-changing offer. Though his heart leans strongly toward accepting it, the decision is far from simple. Lucas is emotionally torn. He's passionate about cars and dreams of being a professional mechanic, yet he dreads disappointing his father, who has always expected Lucas to follow in his footsteps on the family farm. He also worries about how Isabel will react to such a big change for their family, especially with 4 children involved. One quiet evening, while Isabel is combing her hair, Lucas finally finds the courage to open up to her. His tone is hesitant and vulnerable. Isabel, sensing his distress, stops and gives him her full attention. Lucas gradually shares his secret. Jim offered him a job at his garage in Uxbridge and even promised to help pay for his tuition so he could earn his Class A certification. Isabel is visibly shocked but listens attentively. Lucas expresses his deep desire to pursue this opportunity and make a new life for their family in Uxbridge. Isabel is understandably concerned about the logistics and implications: their children's schooling, her job, their furniture, and the emotional toll of leaving their home and Lucas's parents. However, Lucas assures her that Jim has arranged everything. Even a country house near the garage is available for rent. He passionately explains that this opportunity is not just a job, but his lifelong dream, and asks for Isabel's support. Touched by Lucas's honesty and resolve, Isabel agrees to stand by him. She recognizes how important this is to him and expresses her willingness to move forward together as a family, though she acknowledges that telling Lucas's father will be the most difficult part. The next morning, Lucas calls Jim and confirms their intention to move. Jim is delighted and tells Lucas they can move into the country home by the 1st of August. Everything is falling into place quickly. Lucas shares the news with Isabel, who plans to give notice at her job immediately, and Lucas informs Claude about the opportunity. Claude is saddened to lose a dependable worker, but gives Lucas his blessing, affirming his belief in Lucas's potential. Lucas now faces the hardest task, telling his parents. He visits them early one morning while they're having breakfast. His mother, Elizabeth, immediately senses his anxiety and assumes something is wrong at home. Lucas reassures them that everything is fine, then carefully explains the job offer from Jim. At first, his parents are stunned, especially by the idea of moving to Uxbridge. His mother is emotional, and his father's initial reaction is one of silent disappointment. Lucas opens up further, confessing for the first time that farming has never been his true calling. He shares that while he didn't want to hurt his father by admitting this earlier, he now feels compelled to follow his own path. This heartfelt honesty takes John by surprise. He had always thought Lucas was content working on the farm. Lucas, holding back tears, apologizes for not being the son his father wanted. But John responds with love and understanding. He assures Lucas that he is proud of him regardless of his career choice. Elizabeth, though emotional, echoes her husband's support. They both agree to help Lucas move. Plans for the move are made swiftly. Lucas suggests using both his father's and James's trucks, along with his station wagon, to transport the family's furniture and belongings. John agrees and offers his help wholeheartedly, making sure Lucas has thought through everything. Lucas confirms that this is the path he is fully committed to taking. His dream is finally within reach, and he is determined to build a new life for his family. The day of the big move arrives. The family is both exhausted and excited. The trucks are packed, the children are bundled up, and tearful goodbyes are shared. Mary and Deborah, Lucas's sisters, express their sadness at his departure, especially Mary, who becomes emotional seeing her little brother leave. Isabel promises to send pictures of the children, and Lucas assures them they'll stay in touch. The convoy, Lucas and Isabel in their station wagon, followed by James and his son Paul, and then John and Elizabeth with the furniture trucks, sets out on the 5-hour drive to Uxbridge. Upon arrival, they stop briefly at Jim and Diane's house, where Jim hands over the keys and gives more details about the mechanic certification program. It's a rigorous 3-year evening course, but Lucas is ready and excited to begin. His new job at the garage starts the following week. When they finally reach the country home, Isabel is instantly taken by the house. It is spacious, well-maintained, and beautifully located. The family is overjoyed. Lucas, seeing Isabel and the children happy, feels reassured that he has made the right decision. Even Elizabeth, upon entering the house, is amazed and delighted by the space and atmosphere, praising the home as a perfect place to raise children. She takes the kids upstairs for a tour while the others begin unloading furniture. John excitedly points out the garage in the backyard to Lucas, who is thrilled. James eagerly begins moving furniture, and Lucas, filled with energy and optimism, joins in enthusiastically. The next morning, after breakfast, the time comes for Lucas's parents and brother to leave. It's an emotional moment. Lucas shares heartfelt goodbyes with his father and mother, thanking them for their support. Elizabeth cries as she hugs her grandchildren and Isabel. Even Paul, Lucas's young nephew, has a hard time saying goodbye. As the trucks drive away, Lucas and Isabel wave from their porch. Lucas is filled with emotion but also with a profound sense of accomplishment and hope. He kisses Isabel and looks at his children, filled with pride. In his heart, he knows his dream is finally coming true, and everything he has ever wanted is now within reach in this new chapter of their lives. Chapter 17. In Chapter 17, the story transitions to a more mature and settled phase in Lucas and Isabel's life. More than a year has passed, and Lucas, now 26, is thriving in both his career and family life. He is steadily progressing toward becoming a certified mechanic while successfully providing for his growing family. The couple enjoys a peaceful and fulfilling life in Uxbridge, where their 4 young children, Richard, Johnny, Steve, and Lucy, have ample space to play and grow in a wholesome environment. Isabel, a devoted stay-at-home mother, finds joy in nurturing the children, and together, the family experiences the contentment of a life rooted in love, routine, and support. The couple also maintains close ties with extended family, frequently visiting Lucas's Aunt Betty and Uncle Chuck, a warm and childless couple who cherish spending time with their nieces and nephews. Lucas's family roots run deeper into Toronto through his uncles, Joseph and George, who work on the CN Railway. Amid this tranquil domestic life, an unexpected event disrupts their sense of security. One morning, Isabel feels nauseous and initially suspects it might be the flu. However, after a couple of days of recurring queasiness and reflection, she realizes she might be pregnant. This realization throws her into distress because both she and Lucas have been extremely cautious, following medical advice that another pregnancy could be fatal for either her or the baby due to severe complications from previous deliveries. Isabel hastily schedules a doctor's appointment. Days later, Dr. Coleman confirms her fears. She is indeed pregnant. The news is alarming. Dr. Coleman warns her that the pregnancy carries an even higher risk than before, particularly due to her previous hemorrhaging. Isabel is devastated and frightened. After the call, she breaks down in tears, trying to remain composed in front of her children. She tells her sons she has a stomach ache, masking the magnitude of her fear with a mother's calm reassurance. Later that evening, Lucas returns home, bubbling with excitement over a major professional success, repairing an old Studebaker that rekindled memories of his youth and his first meeting with Isabel. As he shares his joy, Isabel conceals her inner turmoil. After dinner and tucking in the children, they sit on the porch where Isabel finally shares the news. Lucas is shocked, anxious, and emotional. He reassures Isabel of his love and commitment, but is visibly frightened by the potential danger. They resolve to take the pregnancy day by day, strictly following medical advice. As the months pass, Isabel's pregnancy is relatively smooth, just as with her previous children, though the fear of complications looms large. To manage the risk, Dr. Coleman schedules a cesarean section for March 19, 1966, hoping to minimize delivery complications. However, on March 18 at 4 a.m., Isabel's water breaks unexpectedly, and her labor begins. Lucas rushes into action, calling Aunt Betty and Uncle Chuck to watch the children while he drives Isabel to the hospital. The urgency of the situation intensifies when Isabel, experiencing rapid contractions, says she feels the urge to push, indicating that the baby is coming sooner than expected. Lucas drives as quickly and safely as possible, fearing what might happen if the baby is delivered in the car. Upon arrival at the hospital, Isabel is taken in immediately. Plans for a cesarean are abandoned when Dr. Coleman sees that the baby is already in the birth canal. Isabel must deliver naturally. As labor progresses, complications arise. The umbilical cord is wrapped around the baby's neck, causing distress. Dr. Coleman manages to free the baby from the cord, but Isabel is rapidly losing strength. With great effort and medical coaching, she finally delivers a baby boy, weighing 8 pounds and 4 ounces. But the danger is far from over. Immediately after birth, Isabel begins to hemorrhage severely, just like in her previous deliveries. Dr. Coleman and the nurses scramble to stabilize her, administering a blood transfusion and intravenous fluids, and monitoring her on a heart monitor. She is left pale, weak, and unconscious. The baby, too, is in distress. Due to the oxygen deprivation from the cord, his heartbeat is weak, and his breathing shallow. Dr. Davis, a pediatrician, steps in to help stabilize him with oxygen, intravenous fluids, and a heart monitor. The doctors make it clear that the next 24 hours are critical for both mother and child. Lucas, meanwhile, waits helplessly in the corridor, consumed by fear. When the doctors finally speak with him, they explain the full scope of the emergency. Lucas learns that he has a son, but both his wife and baby are in fragile condition. The baby is stable for now but could go into cardiac arrest, and Isabel is in a weakened state from blood loss. Lucas is overcome with emotion, but he maintains his composure and thanks the doctors. The chapter ends with Lucas being led to see his newborn son in the incubator. Though the boy is fragile, Lucas manages to smile through his tears, a smile that contains hope, gratitude, and fear. The future is uncertain, but the love and resilience that bind this family remain unshaken. This moment marks a dramatic climax as joy and dread coexist in the same breath, highlighting the fragility of life and the depth of familial devotion. Summary of Chapter 18. Chapter 18 of the story is a deeply emotional and introspective chapter that unfolds through Lucas's continued monologue beside the unconscious Lucy. As he sits by her hospital bed, Lucas reflects on a pivotal moment in his life, revealing both the intensity of his love for his daughter and the gravity of the sacrifices he has made for his family. The chapter opens in the stillness of the hospital room, with Lucy unresponsive and Lucas clinging to hope. As he holds her hand and waits desperately for any sign of recovery, Lucas becomes momentarily silent, stirred by a fleeting sense that the heart monitor beeps faster. Yet, there is no visible change in Lucy's condition. After wiping his tears and collecting himself, Lucas resumes telling Lucy about a critical chapter from his past. Lucas recalls a summer day in July when he received a call from his father, John Clarkson, announcing that he and Lucas's mother, Elizabeth, were coming to visit. The tone of his father's voice hinted that the visit was about more than just family bonding. It was clear he had something serious to discuss. The memory transports Lucas back to his home in Uxbridge, where he and Isabel, his loving wife, joyfully welcome John and Elizabeth. The reunion is warm and affectionate. Lucas runs to greet his parents as they arrive in their truck, and together with Isabel and the children, they share loving embraces. Elizabeth is especially thrilled to hold baby Thomas for the first time, while John enjoys time with Lucy, Richard, Johnny, and Steve. The scene is filled with familial warmth as they all proceed into the house, where Isabel has prepared the guest room and is working on supper. The gathering becomes a celebration of family. As Elizabeth compliments Isabel's cooking, John affectionately calls her their French chef, and everyone shares in the joy of being together. The meal Isabel prepares, roast beef with seasoned roasted potatoes and glazed carrots, is a feast that symbolizes the harmony and love in their home. During the meal, Laughter and compliments flow freely, showing the closeness and mutual respect within the family. After supper, as Isabel and Elizabeth get the children ready for bed, Lucas and his father sit down for a cup of coffee. It is in this quieter moment that John finally reveals the true reason for his visit. Lucas quickly senses something is wrong from his father's tone, and John confirms his suspicions. He is struggling, physically and financially. John reveals several distressing truths. James, Lucas's brother, plans to move to the city to seek better opportunities for his special needs children, Donna and Scott, which includes selling the house that John had given him. Although John is supportive of James's decision, it means he will lose help on the farm. Worse, John's health is rapidly declining due to worsening asthma, and he anticipates needing oxygen in the near future. The emotional weight deepens as John explains the toll that supporting his daughter Mary is taking on him. Her husband Joe is unemployed and alcoholic, leaving John to carry their financial burdens, including paying her bills and even her mortgage. This generosity, rooted in paternal love, has brought John to the brink of bankruptcy. He feels ashamed and terrified of telling Elizabeth the full truth about their situation. John then makes a heartfelt plea to Lucas. He needs him to return to the family farm. Lucas is taken aback by the request. He is just a year away from earning his mechanic's certificate and enjoys a stable and fulfilling life with Isabel and their children in Uxbridge. Still, his father's desperation and declining health weigh heavily on him. Lucas feels trapped between his duty to his own growing family and his loyalty to the man who raised him. John assures Lucas that with his help, the farm could be saved. He envisions them planting cash crops and selling logs to the pulp industry. He reminds Lucas of his physical strength and farming knowledge, skills John can no longer offer. Though Lucas expresses concern about the small size of the farmhouse and the disruption such a move would cause, the emotional plea from his father begins to sink in. Lucas eventually agrees to consider the idea but sets firm conditions. John must promise to stop supporting Joe and Mary financially, and they must be made aware of his dire situation. Lucas emphasizes that it is time for Mary and Joe to take responsibility for their own lives. He also insists that John be honest with Elizabeth about their financial condition. Lucas's love for his father is clear, but he also demonstrates maturity and wisdom, recognizing the importance of boundaries and self-preservation. As Lucas embraces his father, both men are moved to tears. It is a moment of powerful emotional resolution. Lucas understands the magnitude of what he is about to give up, his dreams, his job, his independence, but he is willing to do so out of love, respect, and a sense of duty. The chapter ends with the return of Isabel and Elizabeth, carrying in coffee. Their cheerful banter contrasts sharply with the heavy conversation that just transpired, highlighting the emotional burden the men are carrying in silence. Lucas exchanges loving glances with Isabel, wondering how she will react to the impending decision. The chapter closes with a sense of bittersweet calm. Though the evening winds down peacefully, the weight of unspoken truths and looming changes fills the air. Summary of Chapter 19, A Crossroads of Duty and Dreams. Chapter 19 presents a poignant and emotionally charged episode that marks a significant turning point in the lives of Lucas, Isabel, and Lucas's parents, John and Elizabeth. The chapter explores themes of family loyalty, sacrifice, emotional conflict, and the heavy weight of responsibility through a deeply intimate lens. The chapter opens with John and Elizabeth preparing to return to their farm after a brief visit. As they load the truck, a pivotal conversation unfolds between John and his son, Lucas. John, with a noticeable sense of vulnerability and desperation, asks Lucas if he has considered returning home to help with the family farm. His voice is nervous, and his eyes brim with emotion, an uncommon display from a man known for his pride and self-reliance. Lucas, moved by his father's uncharacteristic plea, admits that he has been preoccupied with the matter, but has yet to discuss it with Isabel. He asks for a few more days to decide, promising to respond soon. Lucas is torn. He loves his father and recognizes the urgency and seriousness of the request. His values place family at the center of everything, yet he is aware of the tremendous sacrifices this decision would demand, not just from him, but also from Isabel and their children. He reassures John of his love and commitment, but urges his father to be honest with Elizabeth about his deteriorating health and worsening financial struggles. John promises to do so once they are home. The farewell that follows is emotional and heartfelt. Elizabeth kisses baby Thomas goodbye. John and Elizabeth exchange tearful embraces with their grandchildren, and the entire family shares affectionate goodbyes. Lucas's gesture of closing the truck door and giving his mother a kiss underscores the warmth and tight-knit nature of their family bond. As John and Elizabeth drive away, the lingering silence reflects the weight of what has just transpired. Later that night, Lucas and Isabel share a deeply emotional conversation in the intimacy of their bedroom. Isabel senses something is troubling Lucas, having noticed his distracted demeanor since John's arrival. Lucas tries to deflect it first, but eventually opens up about the conversation he had with his father. He reveals the severity of John's condition. His asthma has worsened, he struggles with the physical demands of farm work, and on top of that, he is facing bankruptcy. Lucas explains the complexity of the situation. James, his brother, has decided to sell the other farmhouse and move to the city with his wife Deborah to better care for their children, who have special needs. James has no intention of staying on to help with the farm, having taken a job trucking logs. To make matters worse, John has been financially supporting Lucas's sister Mary and her unemployed husband Joe, even paying off their mortgage. These financial strains have forced John to sell off parts of the farm, yet he continues to help them, refusing to confront them about their dependence. Isabel is stunned by the news. She is especially shocked to learn that Elizabeth has no idea about John's health and the dire financial situation they are in. Lucas expresses deep concern over his father's pride and refusal to ask for help unless absolutely necessary, a trait that makes this request all the more serious. The conversation then reaches its emotional climax when Lucas confesses what John has asked of him, to move back to the farm and take over its management. Isabel is visibly shaken. The idea of abandoning the life they have built, particularly when Lucas is so close to achieving his dream of becoming a certified mechanic, fills her with sorrow and disbelief. She reminds Lucas that farming is not in his nature, especially the aspect of slaughtering animals, which he finds emotionally distressing. Lucas acknowledges her concerns and admits his discomfort with farm life. However, he feels morally compelled to help his father. He sees it as a matter of integrity and familial duty. For Lucas, the idea of letting his father suffer, both physically and emotionally, while he pursues his personal ambitions feels unacceptable. He expresses that his identity is deeply rooted in family responsibility, and this moment is a test of that very conviction. Isabel, despite her own reservations, responds with grace and love. She recognizes the gravity of the situation and the internal conflict tearing Lucas apart. Rather than pressure him, she vows to respect whatever decision he makes, even though she fears the long-term consequences of him giving up his dream. She proposes a compromise. Perhaps they could delay moving for a year until Lucas finishes his certification, but Lucas explains that the situation is too urgent for delay. John cannot wait. His finances are depleted, and he may lose the farm within weeks. Lucas further outlines John's plan for financial recovery, cutting trees for lumber, and planting cash crops to generate revenue. Isabel, worried and emotionally drained, reminds him that such a lifestyle is harsh and far removed from Lucas's aspirations. She fears he will regret this sacrifice in the future. Yet she listens with compassion as Lucas explains that this is not just about a farm. It's about honoring the sacrifices his parents made for him and preserving the legacy they built. In a final, deeply moving moment, Lucas asserts his decision. He has thought long and hard about it, and though it breaks his heart to give up his dreams, he believes moving back is the right thing to do. He sees it not only as an act of service to his father, but as an opportunity to be closer to both his and Isabel's families during difficult times. He highlights how precious time is, especially with aging parents, and emphasizes that he doesn't want to live with regret. Isabel, though still heartbroken, affirms her love and unwavering support. She expresses concern about him, potentially looking back with regret, but reassures him that she is with him all the way. The couple embraces in tears, the depth of their love and unity glowing in the midst of their sorrow. The chapter ends with Lucas declaring that he will call his father in the morning to confirm their decision to move back. He forces a smile for Isabel's sake, still burdened by the magnitude of the change, but comforted by her steadfast loyalty. Isabel echoes his devotion, stating that as long as they are together, they can face any hardship. Their love and commitment shine as the emotional backbone of the narrative. Summary of Chapter 20. The Journey Back to the Farm. Lucas and Isabel prepare to leave their beloved country home and return to the Clarkson family farm. The day begins with a bittersweet farewell as moving trucks, one driven by Uncle James and the other by his friend Jeff, pull away, loaded with the family's belongings. As they wave goodbye, the gravity of the transition settles in. Isabel is occupied with settling the children into the car, while Lucas performs one final check around the house. His inspection turns emotional as he reflects on the memories and growth the home represents. Nostalgia grips him deeply, particularly because he is leaving behind a comfortable life and a job he loved. However, his sense of duty to help his aging father outweighs his reluctance. Isabel, perceptive and tender, notices Lucas's melancholic demeanor and offers him an out, reminding him that they can still stay if he changes his mind. Lucas, however, is resolute. He reaffirms his promise to his father and confesses a deep-seated feeling that life is about to change dramatically, though he cannot explain how. Despite her unease about his ominous feelings, Isabel chooses to trust in Lucas's decision. They walk to the car together, embracing and drawing strength from one another. As Lucas prepares to drive away, he takes a moment to look back at their home, reminiscing about the joyous times, the children's milestones, and the career sacrifices he's making. A second wave of intuition washes over him, warning again of an uncertain future, but he pushes the thought aside for the sake of his family. The drive to the farm is long, about 4.5 hours in total. The children fall asleep during the journey, giving Lucas and Isabel a rare moment of peace. Nearing Kingston, their baby Thomas starts to fuss, prompting Isabel to suggest a break. Lucas agrees, knowing the baby's loud cries could wake the others. They stop at a restaurant where Isabel warms up a bottle, while Lucas soothes the hungry child. Watching Lucas lovingly feed Thomas, Isabel is overcome with gratitude and affection for the father of her children. When lunch is ready, Lucas gently wakes the children and lifts the sleepy little Lucy into his arms. The family enjoys a warm, cheerful meal at the restaurant, where Richard proudly picks a booth by the window. Lucas and Isabel find joy in their children's innocence and excitement, and they are reassured by the simple happiness of this shared moment. After the meal, they clean up and continue their journey. As they finally arrive at the Clarkson farm, the children's excitement becomes palpable. John and Elizabeth Clarkson, Lucas's parents, are overjoyed to see them. The reunion is heartwarming, filled with hugs, kisses, and affectionate greetings. The grandparents eagerly welcome their grandchildren, with Elizabeth revealing that she has redecorated Lucas's old room for the boys. The children respond with delight and promises to behave. Once inside, Elizabeth spoils the children with homemade chocolate chip cookies and milk, while Lucas and Isabel begin settling into their new chapter. Lucas steps out with John to bring in a few essentials from the vehicle. During this brief exchange, John emotionally thanks Lucas for moving back, and Lucas assures him that family comes first. That night, as the family sits together enjoying snacks and coffee, the conversation turns to Uncle James and his possible move to Cornwall, a decision tied to the needs of his own family. Isabel expresses happiness for them, despite the sadness of their departure. The warmth and support within the family unit is evident, and Lucas continues to show his love for Isabel with gestures that reaffirm their bond. After snacks, the children eagerly ask to see their new bedroom, Lucas's childhood room, now redecorated for them. Isabel agrees, instructing them to wash their hands and not to wake the sleeping younger children. As the boys rush off, Lucas and John return with luggage, and the sense of family unity grows stronger. The chapter concludes with a reflection on the adjustments that lie ahead. Lucas begins working alongside his father, farming and logging, while often contemplating the life he left behind in Uxbridge. Despite occasional visits from friends like Jim, who reminds him of opportunities back in the city, Lucas chooses to stay, honoring his commitment to his family. Isabel resumes work at the Brown Shoe Company to supplement their income. Although the job is far from her dream, she accepts it to support Lucas and the children. The couple faces financial hardship and demanding responsibilities, but their love remains a powerful anchor. Lucas consistently makes Isabel feel valued, and they carve out time to nurture their relationship despite the daily struggles. Summary of Chapter 21: A Tapestry of Grief, Sacrifice, and Enduring Friendship. Chapter 21 is a deeply emotional and transformative chapter that unfolds across a few years, marked by loss, personal struggle, reunion, and devastating tragedy. It begins with the somber death of Isabel's father in the cold winter of 1969 and ends with the heart-wrenching news of Steve's tragic death. This chapter weaves together intimate family scenes, quiet grief, the strength of marital love, and the power of lifelong friendship. The chapter opens with the death of Mr. Bourgeois, Isabel's father, who passes away peacefully but emotionally on a winter night. Isabel is alone with him in his final moments. With tears in his eyes, Mr. Bourgeois offers a whisper of reconciliation, his last words being a request for Isabel's forgiveness. In this final act, he acknowledges the past and the pain he inflicted. Isabel, who has endured deep wounds from his emotional and physical abuse, silently forgives him with a nod, a deeply poignant gesture of closure and grace. This silent absolution is not just for her father, but also a necessary step for Isabel's own healing, though it is clear the scars linger. After her father's death, Isabel is overcome with memories of her traumatic childhood. The repression of those memories begins to fail, and she is haunted by unresolved emotions. Rather than expressing her turmoil, she internalizes it, even distancing herself emotionally from Lucas, who remains unaware of the depth of her anguish. Her coping manifests physically as she gains weight, a visible testament to the emotional burden she carries. Despite the changes, Lucas remains tender and supportive, loving her unconditionally. His affection never wavers, even as he senses that something is troubling her beneath the surface. Lucas, now 30, has taken over full responsibility of the family farm. However, farming no longer provides a sustainable living, and Lucas finds no joy in it. Despite his mechanical aptitude and passion, he gave up his dreams to support his ailing father. Together with John, he decides to sell off all the livestock, an emotionally and economically significant move that marks the end of a way of life for the Clarkson family. Lucas turns to timber work, hauling logs to Domter in Cornwall and buying timber from others' land. The physical work is grueling and unfulfilling, but he perseveres. His satisfaction comes not from his work, but from being with Isabel and their 5 children, and from the pride of having upheld his filial duties when his father could no longer work. Elizabeth continues to support the family by working at the shoe company, and she and Isabel share the responsibilities of raising the children and caring for John, whose health continues to deteriorate. The tone of the chapter lifts with the sudden arrival of Steve, Lucas's best friend, who surprises him with a visit after many years. The last time they had seen each other was at Lucas and Isabel's wedding. The reunion is heartfelt and exuberant, brimming with nostalgia and genuine brotherly affection. They wrestle playfully like they did in their youth, and Lucas excitedly introduces Steve to his family, including the son he named after him. Steve is warmly welcomed by the entire Clarkson household. John, though frail and on oxygen, is happy to see Steve again, while Elizabeth greets him like a returning son. Isabel prepares a dessert and coffee, and the children adore meeting their Uncle Steve. The visit is filled with laughter, stories, and joy. Steve shares his life in the Air Force, his promotion to lieutenant, and the pride of having bought his own airplane, a dream fulfilled. However, the reunion is tinged with bittersweet undertones. Steve's life is filled with freedom and professional achievement, but it highlights for Lucas the dreams he had to abandon. Still, Lucas is genuinely happy for his friend and proud of his accomplishments. Their conversation reflects mutual admiration. Steve praises Lucas's selflessness and gentle strength, while Lucas beams with pride at Steve's success. They both recognize that while their lives took different paths, the bond they share remains unbreakable. As Steve prepares to leave, the farewell is deeply touching. He bids goodbye to Isabel with warm appreciation and tells Lucas how proud he is of him as a father and husband. Their embrace at the door seals their brotherhood, affirming their lifelong connection. Lucas watches his friend drive away, comforted by the memory of their joyful time together and holding Isabel close in gratitude for his family. 3 months later, life continues its quiet rhythm until it is shattered by a single phone call. Lucas returns home from an exhausting day in the bush and settles in to relax with his family. The phone rings, and Elizabeth hands it to him with a look of unease. On the other end is Colonel Howard Smith of the Air Force, delivering news that devastates Lucas to the core. Steve has died in a plane crash. His beloved Beechcraft Musketeer malfunctioned, and he crashed into a mountain. The colonel explains that Steve had designated Lucas as his emergency contact and placed him in charge of his funeral. He speaks with deep respect for Steve's wishes and admiration for the bond the two men shared, saying Lucas was like a brother to Steve. Lucas listens in stunned silence. The news is too much to process. The very friend he had just embraced, laughed with, and admired is now gone forever. Lucas is overwhelmed with sorrow. The loss pierces him like a blade. He barely finds the words to respond. His grief is visceral, raw, and heavy. As he prepares to tell Isabel and the children, he is overcome by the enormity of it all. How life can change so suddenly, how someone so full of life can be lost in an instant. Isabel, seeing his face, immediately senses the truth. When Lucas confirms that Steve has died, the weight of the tragedy sinks in. She holds him as he weeps uncontrollably, his pain erupting in sobs that seem too much for one man to bear. In his anguish, Lucas questions how a person can endure such pain and still go on living. The chapter closes in this storm of emotion, as the family is once again confronted with the cruelty of loss and the fragility of life. Themes and emotional currents. This chapter is rich in emotional complexity and thematic depth. It explores grief and forgiveness, from Isabel's silent forgiveness of her dying father to Lucas's heartbreak over Steve's death. The cost of sacrifice. Lucas's relinquishment of his dreams underscores the painful compromises people make for family and duty. Friendship and brotherhood. The bond between Lucas and Steve is the emotional heart of the chapter, deep, enduring, and ultimately, tragically severed. A love and stability. Despite the hardships, Lucas finds grounding in Isabel and their children, drawing strength from their presence.